Our next presentation touches on this very point, unique designs of coastal hotels. Our next speaker is Mr. Titus Kipsang, who is the Managing Director of Symbion. He's got more than 20 years experience in both design and management of various projects. As I pointed out, he is currently the Executive Director of Symbion in Mombasa. And in this role, he has successfully handled a variety of projects in hospitality, commercial and residential sectors. And he's going to be speaking to us about unique designs specifically in coastal hotels. So, Mr. Kipsang, the stage is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank IDE for this opportunity to speak to you this morning. I'm not going to make you architects. I'm not going to speak about something that is new, but I'm going to echo almost what the Minister C.S. Palala said yesterday on how to ensure that we've created products in the hospitality industry at the coast that give much more than just a product, that grow that experience. I know when we talk about the coast, wherever you are in the world, the coast tends to give you a different perception, a different experience. In East Africa, the coast tends to give us one of the most exciting moments. When we speak of Mombasa or the coast, those are the images that come into our mind. We conjure the image of a sure coastline. We conjure the image of white sandy beaches. We conjure the images of Fort Jesus. We conjure the images of certain other attractions that may not be very common and may not be apparent to you. But those are only what we see. Maybe there is much more to these images that we could grow. Like, for example, traveling quite a bit in the world, you find that actually our beaches are whiter than any other. And so the sand that we talk about as white is really white sandy beach. The Ashua coastline is really Ashua. And we could grow that to enhance experience. Fort Jesus is an attraction, but it's not enough to say, go to Fort Jesus. I think recently we had Safaricom hosting a very good concert in Fort Jesus. Maybe the hoteliers could grow that as an opportunity to enhance that experience of our guests at the coast. Maybe a bit of a challenge, but those are attractions that are apparent and available at the coast. When we talk of the coast, we cannot forget the food. The coconut being a very important concept that goes through each and every, most of the meals that we take at the coast tend to have a drop of coconut in them. The spices tend to be a very important aspect of our food at the coast. Growing that culture and making the experience memorable through the food that people will take is something that can make the products that we have at the coast much more unique. When we talk of the coast, as the minister said yesterday, traditionally it's been sunbathing, a bit of swimming, and then go back to the room. I think there is much more to what is available. And I want to almost take a different view and take the heart of an architect and say, we would love to design products in the middle of the sea, but we don't have that opportunity at the moment because the laws say we limit ourselves to 30 meters to the high water mark. Please don't develop any further than 30 meters. But how would you experience the underworld of the sea if you cannot be allowed to put in a restaurant in the middle of the sea and allow the guest to experience that element while he's having his lunch or dinner? Those are some of the things that we think we need to change in order to enhance the experiences. The jet skis and all those have been there, but I think we could do much more. We could do water sports that can enhance our experiences with the sea. When we talk of the coast also, we can't forget the culture. The culture of the people of the coast is very, very, very dynamic. As dynamic as some of the methalis that you find on the kikois that you wear the coast. There is Swahili sayings that pass very meaningful advices to us. As dynamic as the cultural festivals that happen there, I think we could grow that much more. We've got the Maulid festival that happens annually in Lamu. It's a very big tourist attraction, but is that all? There was a time the CS was a mayor in Mombasa, and I think we used to have an annual cultural festival in Mombasa, and that was a quite big do. Maybe we could increase that. Maybe we could enhance that in order to ensure that the experience that our guests enjoy while sampling these products at the coast is much more. The architecture of the coast is also unique. We've not exposed that sufficiently enough. There are cities in this world that receive guests just because those guests are going to tour the architecture of those cities. Milan, Rome, or any other cities in the world receive quite a number of tourists who are going there just to sample the architecture. I think we have plenty of architectural masterpieces in the coast that we could use to enhance the experience of tourists. But beyond that, we acknowledge that in order for this architecture, the coast, to come out very well, we have to contextualize that architecture. And so as an architect, whenever we get a commission, our biggest priority is to ensure that that experience is influenced by the culture of that neighborhood. The culture of the coast is Swahili. That is the biggest influencer to architecture. That Swahili could be in the food. Swahili could be in the decorations. Swahili could be in the religion. But it's that all that can influence the architecture. Maybe we could take the architectural elements that are available at the moment at the coast and be able to utilize them in order to enhance and make that piece of architecture more relevant to the context that we have in. And so crenellations, balconies that are highly decorated, I know developers would look at this and say, a lot more money is going to be spent there, or I don't know how to do the maintenance, but we'll look into those. Every good architect should be able to give you a product that captures the essence of the context without necessarily having to make you spend much more than necessary. So while considering this and while looking at coastal projects, there are key tenets of principles of design that I would like to just highlight that will be critical as an architect or as a developer. Your architect should be able to pay attention to those, because that way then the product and the experience of whoever is going to sample that product will be exceptional. The climate that we have in East Africa is one of the most punishing climates. The weather there is very, very, very punishing. Yes, you can have a product in Durban. It may succeed. I doubt whether that product suffers as much as what happens in the coast in East Africa. Dubai tends to also have extreme weathers, but not as much as what we have in East Africa. So while designing at the coast, while developing at the coast, the product must adhere very strongly to the effects of climate. Orientation is also another very important aspect as a response to the climate. We have temperatures that are very, very high. We have the element of heat that comes in, and how to ensure that spaces are naturally cooled is very, very key. So if you orient your buildings properly, if you plan them properly and ensure that those hotel rooms and public spaces are oriented well, they can be able to cool nicely and be able to ensure that your return on investment in those developments and experiences of the guest are acceptable. The other element is material that we pay special attention to. Yes, we have a lot of material suppliers here. We would love to import some of that material, but we've realized that the material that is available locally tends to have a higher resilience to the effects of weather. The material that is luckily available also tends to, becomes an easier maintenance material in terms of keeping it acceptable, giving it to wear and tear throughout the period of its usage. Coconut has got a very high usage in furniture, coconut in the makuti, coconut in the columns. All that tends to be a very important aspect of constructing products, tourism products that are acceptable and that will give you the experience that we're talking about as unique. The second last very important point is the element of maintenance. Just a bit, yes. Maintenance is a very key aspect of designing products that last longer in the coast. And I know in my walk around yesterday and today morning, many of the people find it unique that I asked, will it withstand the weather? Stainless steel 303, 304, 302 can withstand the weather anywhere else. 306 can withstand the weather anywhere else. But stainless steel, those ranges of stainless steel tend to suffer the most at the coast in East Africa. They don't last very long, and we've had to resort to stainless steel 316, for example, as the product that can withstand the elements of weather. If you're going to use external paint, it has to be paint that can last the time. Anything else less than 100% super acrylic would be a problem to withstand the weather elements. If you're using coral stone, it's essential that you consider the element of sealing those coral stones, because the algae effect will be a major problem in terms of maintenance. So maintenance is not something that you can ignore. You can ignore them, and then you end up with a product that doesn't last long, or the return on investment becomes a problem to achieve because of the fact that you're spending much more in keeping the building to acceptable standards. If you must use makuti, for example, then you have to reckon with issues to do with fire, which becomes a major problem for hoteliers. Insurance every year becomes high, and premiums go up beyond the ceiling. So there is a product that we're now introducing into the coastal climates. If we must use makuti, we can use the synthetic thatch product that can withstand the time and still give you insurance against fire. The last and the most important aspect of designing at the coast is keeping to the standards. We said we must attract that guest from outside who is familiar with these standards. And if they don't benchmark to those standards, then that product that we are getting to the market at the coast may not be received well. It must be a building that can be accessed easily. It must be a building that it can actually withstand or guarantee safety in case of fire. Building that is secure for the guest to be able to feel safe inside. So all that is just a simple 5 key principles that we normally pay attention to. While looking at also standards, we tend to look at the element of innovation. Somebody presented yesterday on this innovation, and I think it resonated with us a lot. Some of the innovative elements are positive. Some others may not survive the very harsh conditions of weather at the coast. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to give you a quick overview of Symbion's dalliance in the hospitality industry, as well as specific reference to the Swahili kind of architecture and architectural products that we produce. Some of these products got awards yesterday. Kempinski got awarded yesterday through one of its managers. The Pride Inn Hotel, which we just handed over recently. You're familiar with the Serenas. Dar es Salaam Serena Dar es Salaam is one of the latest products we've just submitted. Internally, also, we've got products that appeal to those experiences that we talked about. Some of these have withstood the test of time. I think you're familiar with White Sands. It's a product that has been there for a while. It's undergone renovation recently. There is Pride Inn that we mentioned yesterday as a convention center by the beach. It was an idea that I think didn't look like an idea that would make sense initially when we were coming up with it. But ultimately, it looks like a product that was waiting to happen, and it's been successful. Thank you so much for listening to me. I think it's been an opportune time to understand how to ensure that we have successful products at the cost. We may talk the tourism industry elsewhere, but the cost still appeals, and it's still a very good investment place for hotel industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Maybe we have time for just one very swift question. No questions? Okay. Then I will continue the trend of asking the first question before the questions pour in. So one of the perceptions about coastline projects is that because it's on the coastline, there is an abundance of solar energy and wind energy because of the access to the vast water reserves. And especially in a continent like Africa, there is a vast coastline and there is abundant solar opportunity. Now, in your presentation, I did not see anything related to eco-friendly or sustainable advantage. Why do you think that was missing? Is it really an advantage to develop a project on the coastline because it is more conducive to sustainable measures, or is that just something that is it no significant advantage? You can develop a project anywhere with equal amount of sustainable factors.
Yeah. The coast receives 80% solar energy. Yeah. We do get one of the most abundant sources of energy at the coast. And so, yes, I didn't dwell on it because it forms the basic of our expectation as a designer while you're considering designing at the coast. And so solar energy for lighting, solar energy for heating becomes like a basic requirement now. And in the new products that we are coming up with, we're balancing between solar energy consumption for lighting the common spaces, as well as even injecting in some of the lighting requirements in the room. Solar heating for Kenya now is a law, and you can't provide a hotel product without actually providing solar heating panels. Thank you very much.
All right, so that's all we had time for questions, and thank you very much for, can you come a little forward? I would like to request Mr. Aman Bajaj, who's the owner of Innovatech, to come onto the stage and hand over a memento to thank you for the time that you spent with us.